Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Mugwump Tower, this is Albatross 1-3, requesting permission to land. Over.
I don't need a computer to tell me how to land a damn airplane.
6.
Heads-up display, check.
5,
Lasers, check.
4,
Particle beam, check.
3,
Photon bolts, check.
2,
Chair control, check.
1.
Let's do it.
Broadcasting from a secret underground location somewhere in Mos Eisley, this is the Docking Bay 77 podcast. Make yourself comfortable. The show is about to start. Hello and welcome to the Docking Bay 77 podcast. I am your host, Dayton Johnson. I am your game master for this adventure and I'll be playing the part of Russell. Let me introduce the rest of our party. She's a classic beauty in blood red armor. Playing the part of Gabrielle, it is JP. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be an adventurer tonight. Much more exciting than my normal midlife.
Ours too. That's why we play. And he was a clumsy guard. Now he's a handsome rogue. Playing the part of Eric, it is Liam Lewis. How's it going, Liam?
I'm ready to go. I've got my goblet full of mead, and I am ready to be free of my armor and ready to move.
All right.
In the
Sounds good.
shadows.
Yeah. Make sure you have something underneath the armor. Anyway, moving on. Okay. He is a half-orc bartender turned wizard and a halfling minion turned paladin. Playing both parts of Grumph and Thistle, it is Disney John. How are you?
I guess apparently I have 2d20, so I'm always rolling with advantage.
Very nice. Yes, we are discussing the fantasy book from the author Drew Hayes. It is NPCs. Brief synopsis directly from the back of the book. What happens when the haggling is done and the shops are closed? When the quest has been given and the steeds are saddled and the adventurers are off to the next encounter. They keep the world running, the food cooked, and the horses shoed, yet what adventurer has even spared a thought or concern for the non-player characters? In the town of Maple Bark, for such NPCs, settle in for a night of actively ignoring the adventurers drinking in the tavern when things go quickly and fatally awry. Once the dust settles, these four find themselves faced with an impossible choice. Pretend to be adventurers undertaking a task of near certain death, or see their town and loved ones destroyed. Armed only with salvaged equipment, second-hand knowledge, and a secret that could get them killed, it will take all manner of miracles if they hope to pull off this charade. And even if they succeed, the deadliest part of their journey may well be awaits them at the end. That is, like I said, directly from the back of the book. So let's hit our opening thoughts on NPCs. Disney John, you start.
Okay, so I have to say that the first time I played D&D was in 1977, so just a couple years after the actual very original release of Dungeons and Dragons. And I started with the blue box and moved forward. And I took a couple of breaks here and there, but it's never been far from my mind. Like if somebody says, Hey, let's go gaming, D&D is actually kind of the first thing that came to mind. I will say that I have now read all of these books for the first time for this podcast. All of them. You told me one, I decided to overachieve and I went for all 5, and I'm waiting for number 6 right now. I just couldn't stop. Like it's really it's a great adventure. It's jaunty, it's fun, it's got tension, drama, everything you want.
All right. Very good. JP?
Okay, so I have zero experience with RPGs. I've never played one in my life. And I was like, why have I been asked to be on this podcast? I was like, because there needs to be a perspective of, I love adventure books, like the fantasy genre. I was like, you know what? I could do this. So, and everybody knew Dungeons and Dragons, and I was a huge fan of the 80s cartoon.
All right. Yeah.
And, yeah.
I'm so glad somebody brought that up.
And then a couple of my friends had the Magic the Gathering cards when I was in college. Those came out when I was in college. But I got to be honest, it always came off like it was a guy thing. Like,
And it was for many years.
It was.
and
yeah.
that
It was.
and that frankly, guys wanted it to be that way. It was their
Very
time to hang
heavily
out.
gate kept.
See, I don't think that's true because we just couldn't get girls to join our parties. That was the
I never
problem.
got asked. I would have been
Yeah.
totally.
Okay, you probably were
Interesting.
out of our league at the time.
Oh,
Let's be perfectly
Ooh, well,
honest.
thank
You
you.
were
I will
probably-
take
you were
that
probably-
all day long.
I mean, one, you were just a female. Okay, so let's
Okay.
start there. But two, you're probably far out of our league anyhow. And all of us sitting down in the basement and stinking up the place for an entire weekend definitely does not attract all of the females to our, come on, spend the weekend in the basement with 3 other dudes. It's just doesn't work, right?
It's not what it sounds like. There's math.
Yeah, I know. I realize that there's math, but it's just not. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I lived it, so that's
me
just
too.
it's not
Well,
how it works.
I was a little worried. I was like, I'm going to go into this, and I may not it may be too insider for me. But the author did a great job of explaining everything, and I felt completely comfortable that I was following what was happening and kind of the, actual game references, compared to the fantasy world. And I would read the other books. I didn't read the other books, but I would. But I'm also curious if anybody has listened to the audio versions of the
Me.
books.
That's
You
all I
have?
did.
And
Yeah,
okay.
all of them.
Oh, and are they good? Do who they get to voice the characters good?
He does a pretty good job.
Yeah, he does.
a
I
pretty
mean,
good job.
I've had better, but it wasn't terrible.
Oh,
I mean,
is it just one person?
It's just one.
reading?
It's just one person
and
doing
he does
it.
do he does do voices. So
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, like it's who's talking when this talking is happening. It's well written enough that you can identify the characters as the speech is going, but the voice actor does a very good job at making sure that you are able to identify them. Because I mean, Grumph and Thistle have very distinctive voices. Eric is just like a standard human voice, and Gabriella is just like an octave higher. But it's all distinctive enough that you can easily identify the 4 main characters.
Okay,
Yep.
because I was thinking I might do that because I'm unfortunately one of those people that doesn't allow myself very much reading time. And if I
yeah.
do,
Me
it's
neither.
probably going to be a murder mystery.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? That may be one way I can follow these characters is with audio versions. So
And it's so good. Like, I mean, I will get into this later. Sorry. I don't want to go into it now. We're in opening thoughts.
I'm going to be asking a lot of. I'm going to
Nope.
be the one that's probably going to be asking some questions from the
Nope.
people who have experience. I won't say geeks, but the people who
Yep,
have
proud of it.
experience.
Proud of
No
it. Thank you.
means say geeks.
Yeah.
Geek.
Proud of it.
I love it.
I embraced that moniker years ago, so it's all
Good,
right.
good, good. I love it.
All right.
We'll fill you in. Don't you worry.
Oh, good.
All right, Liam, opening thoughts.
So I'm kind of in a middle ground between JP and the 2 gentlemen. I have sadly never actually played D&D. The availability, the schedules, it's just never aligned for me. But I thankfully grew, I was born and my childhood has occurred during the nerd renaissance, if you
Yes.
will.
Yeah.
Weird Al, one of his ideas for White and Nerdy was because like nerds were all of a sudden becoming cool, and people were bragging about having nerd cred the way you would
You
brag
know it.
about street cred like a rapper, which was
Yes.
not a thing when Weird Al was a kid.
Nope.
No.
So I grew up in this time when like, it's entering the common lexicon, the common culture, it's entering the zeitgeist, and even if you can't play it, there's still a way to consume it, experience it, be a part of the community. My big thing is I have many different campaigns and podcasts and things that I watch and listen to. I'm going to plug Dimension 20 Fantasy High from College Humor. That one's my favorite. But yeah, so I've been able to consume a lot of this, and while I've never actually participated, I could probably, like, if I had a character sheet, I could probably jump into a session right now and do okay. And I pride myself on like knowing the lingo, and like I relish being a part of this community. So reading this book was really, really fun because I love concepts like this,
Yeah.
where like, you're peeking behind the scenes, you're still kind of dealing with main characters, but I love things like Wicked or Discworld, where it's like, okay, like all the fairy tales, but like what's happening like around it,
Right.
Or like Into the Woods, where it's like, yeah, you have Cinderella and everybody, but then there's this baker guy. Like, who's this baker? What's going on with his life? So I loved that, like, we walk into a bar, our four adventurers drop dead, cut to the guy who owns the bar and his friends, and they're like, oh no, we're in trouble. What do we do now?
Yeah.
And so, like, I was hooked with that, and then it was just a blast from there. I loved the humor and the way, like, it was all very digestible.
Right. Okay, cool. So yes, like John, I've been playing tabletop RPGs pretty much since I was 10. The red box was my first one, the basic one. I still have my original set of dice that I got with that set.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding. I still have those.
With the wax crown and the rub off?
No, these were just like a very baby blue color.
It didn't come.
Basic.
Okay, we're gonna talk later.
We're gonna talk later.
Yeah.
So I have that, and honestly, obviously, Dungeons and Dragons was my original and frequent go-to over the years. I have also played tabletop versions of Star Wars, and most recently, John and I have now ventured out into the Fallout universe, playing tabletop versions of that. And of course, you add in
that's fun.
and if you add in all the different computer and console RPGs in fantasy and sci-fi, the term NPCs I was very familiar with. So I actually saw this book as recommended on Hoopla, on the Hoopla app. And I read the description and I was like, okay, this sounds fun. And I too have finished the entire series. I've probably been through them at least twice. The first one more times, but the whole series at least twice. And with this one, the premise got me and the story was great. And it was actually the main characters that actually kept me reading, because I was kind of curious to see, okay, where are they going now? What are they going to do now? And so, yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And it's one of those, I'm just kind of like, thank you for even thinking of this idea.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Speaking of thinking the idea, Drew Hayes, Disney John has some history.
I sure do. Actually, I have a nice little write-up. I decided to write an entire book report, so everybody just sit back and settle in. Drew Hayes, the author behind NPC. Drew Hayes is a self-published author from Texas, known for his humorous and action-packed fantasy novels. And here's some background information on him. His education and background: he holds a Bachelor of Arts from in English from Texas Tech University. And for his writing career, while details are really scarce, and I mean scarce, it is very difficult to find anything about Drew Hayes online. And just as a cute side note, on his website, if you go there, it says, "I'm not dead." It's because there's another Drew Hayes that died in 2007 who was also an author, not of fantasy novels. And he still gets the question today, like, are you still alive and making stuff? And he always has to answer back like, yes, I'm alive. So while details yeah, I'm not dead yet. He's
that's next week.
I'm sorry.
Get back on the highway.
I'm spoiling.
Sorry.
So he's so while details are scarce, it seems his degree didn't lead him down a traditional, like, employable path. As he himself jokingly mentions on his website, however, this paved the way for him to focus on his writing career. He is a self-published author managing his own website, drewhayesnovels.com. Thanks, Drew. Where you can find information about his works and upcoming releases. His best-known works include the Spells, Swords, and Stealth series, which is what we're currently reading. The Superpowers, which is another popular series following a young adults with superpowers trying to make it in a professional hero league. Then there's, I don't understand this one because this has got to be his most popular one, Fred, the Vampire Accountant. This humorous series focuses on the life of an undead accountant who has to juggle his work with the challenges of being a vampire. I don't even know where to start with this one. Like, so yeah.
I'm gonna have to give that one another try.
I just doesn't even sound good to me. I mean, like, and I'm all into vampires, but this does not even sound good to me. And then there's Villains Code, a newer series exploring the world from the perspective of villains and their motivations. Okay, so this is the blurb that actually comes from his website. This is him proclaiming himself out to the world. Drew Hayes is an author from Texas who has written several books and found the gumption to publish a few so far. He graduated from Texas with a BA in English because evidently he's not familiar with the term employable means. Drew has been called one of the most profound, prolific, and talented authors of his generation. But a table full of drunks will say almost anything when offered a round of free shots. Drew feels kind of like a D-bag writing about himself in the third person like this. He does appreciate that you're still reading, though. That's the entire blurb. I was just like, okay, I want to be at his drunken table and like let's go play some D&D because he just sounds like a hoot, right?
It sounds like something Terry Pratchett would write.
Exactly. So that's what I found on Drew Hayes. There was really, I mean, and I was doing some deep diving librarian crap, deep looks and searches. There's nothing about this man. I think largely in part due to the fact that he is self-published.
Right.
Everything he's done is self-published. Everything he's written, his website, it's all handled by him. He's not a large company. He is Drew Hayes.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. So, and for everybody's edification, his next book in the Spells, Sword, and Stealth is not going to come out until at least 25, which is 3 years way too late. I would like one this year. Thank you.
Now.
It's not all about you, John.
I want it in my hands.
I want it now, Daddy.
Me too.
All right. Cool. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to what did the author do right? Any natural 20s. So, JP, why don't you start? What did Drew Hayes get right?
Okay, and I do have about 3 of them, which is great.
Awesome.
I love that he created very likable main characters. Like
Yes.
the team is, because that's what I was saying. I would listen to more books or read more books because I like the team. They're all dealing with some sort of trauma in their life, so they're relatable, and but they're all the personality types that are willing to sacrifice themselves, for their friends, their family, their town, that kind of thing. So easy to like.
Right.
He wrote strong female characters, and a world where it's not uncommon that a woman can be a warrior. Like nobody even thinks twice about that. So I
Right.
love that aspect of it. And I loved, like Liam said, the slow reveal of how like the fantasy RPG and the human worlds are connected, like how he slowly reveals that throughout the book. And that really kept me, interested in it. I like that aspect of it.
You'd be happy to know that in the later books, there's a lot more very good female characters as well.
Strong female.
Yes.
I mean, like just strong
Yes.
female. And they're side by side with men characters, right? So it's still kind of that, but it is, and it's not like, hey, look, I've got strong female characters. It's, hey, look, there are strong female characters as well as these other characters who do good jobs, right?
Right.
So well done. I mean, it's just so well done.
Well, that's what I liked about it was like they were just there. Everybody took them for what they were. They found out what their skills were. They respected them, and they went on. There was no discussion about it,
Well, and for, I mean, just even for somebody who doesn't like, or who has never, I'm not sorry, I misspoke. For somebody who's never played a role-playing game before, and if you've liked the first book, you will love the rest of the books. They're just a great story of an adventure that is like, it's a campaign is what it's called, right?
Yeah.
So the whole thing is a campaign, and it is just a great campaign that he is laying out for us, and it's laid out very well. It's articulated well. The world building is just stunning throughout. So awesome. I really enjoyed it. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm jumping Liam's spot, and JP, you used to have 2 more things you want to say.
No, that was all 3 of them.
Okay.
I feel like such a slacker that I haven't read the rest of the books, like, because I really want to. I just haven't found the time yet.
Dude, if you're in a car and you have a freaking player, just do it. Like, just put it on every time that you're in the car.
Yeah.
Every time. That's what I do. I can't do it now because fantasy football's starting, and I'm going to have 5 days a week of fantasy football. So my chance of listening to them is dwindling.
Yeah, Liam, you and I, we got to get ourselves together. And
yeah, we got to get on it.
Yeah, another couple of months, we're going to be doing the second book, people. Come on, get there.
Okay.
He doesn't know that yet. Don't tell him.
All right. Liam, what did the author get right?
I think his biggest natural 20 is like the subversion of expectations. I love a good mismatch. I love a good, like, sort of like unexpected positioning of your pieces. And I had so much fun. I love that first fight because I so very much enjoy, like, oh, okay, we've all picked out our classes, we all know what we're gonna be, here we go. And then through one battle, everything turned, and like the slow realization of like, wait a minute, this description of her anger, like, wait, that's a rage.
Yep.
She's going into her, wait, what? And then
What is happening here?
Yeah.
And then and then like Thistle gets the deal with the god, like that moment that he has where like he hasn't actually been asked the question yet, but he's just like, oh brother, okay, here we go.
He goes, look at me. This doesn't work. What you're asking, this doesn't work.
I love stuff like that. Like I enjoy that in kind of all mythology. I love the unlikely hero, as it were. I enjoy, like, in Exodus, God picks like a socially awkward dude with a stutter to lead the people. I enjoy, like, in the original myth, Perseus is like, I think 16. He's like a child. I really enjoy an unlikely hero and unlikely pairings.
Right.
So I thought that the author did a really good job subverting our expectations and giving us so much more than we ever could have imagined we were getting when we started to read this book.
All right. Disney John.
So I'm gonna echo exactly what JP said. The transition, particularly for me as a deep D&D player, I love the genre and I like doing it. The deep cut at the beginning, like where it's like you're going down the road, these adventures go there, and it's a party of kids around a table. He's telling them like, hey man, I told you all that you needed to do these things because it was going to be way more realistic. And they were like, yeah, but whatever. And they're like, well, do you remember the time that you ate the mushrooms and you found them when you rolled a natural one? Okay, so JP, I'm not sure how familiar you are, but a natural one is not a good thing in D&D ever.
Is it a critical failure? Am I
That is
using
correct.
That's what a critical failure is. Yeah.
But on
I
a
picked up
critical
a couple
failure,
things.
they found mushrooms and they ate them. And then they also had to roll saving throws after they ate them. Any other party in the whole entire freaking universe would have understood like something bad just happened and I'm not sure what it is. And then they go off and they go down the party and the party's still going like, okay, well, we want to go here. Wait a minute, that bartender raised an eyebrow and it was like, oh my God. And he's like, I'm just going to fight him. It's like, dude, I'm going to do insight. Okay. Oh, look. No, he's just saying, what do you want to drink? Oh, great. So, I mean, the whole thing, right? And then all of a sudden they all just keel over dead and wham. We are following the NPCs who are now the PCs for the damn party. And I was just like, wait, what? Hold on a second. Shit, they just explained the situation. Now they're all this is amazing. It broke the paradigm for me of, oh, I guess we're just following these kids. It's going to be a story about, no, it's a story about the NPCs for the NPCs, like all NPCs everywhere. Raise your NPC flag because this story is for you. It was just so stunningly done in this transition. And as you read the later books, the transition from the real world to world is so smooth. It is just from one to the other, and I'm not going to spoil anything. There are some spoilers that could happen. It's so good. Oh my gosh, you all need to read 2, 3, 4, and 5 because they are just as good as number 1.
Well,
That's
and I
awesome.
love this kind of storytelling too, like where you have like the real world and the game world, or like the two universes colliding type story. And you usually only get it in sci-fi, like your Trons and your Free Guys and so forth. And so it was really, really fun to get that for the fantasy sect because like it's
wonderful.
Like, you don't realize it until somebody does it, but then you read this book and you're like, oh my God, it's right there. It's been there this whole time. How has nobody thought of this before?
Well, right. And the other win was the prologue, because the prologue directly ties into the end of the book.
Yes.
And I was just like, because I was listening to it again today and I'm like, I know exactly who that is. It's like, why did I not see that the first? It was just such a great bookends. It's well written. There is a prologue, a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it is successful.
The plotting's
all the
very
way
tight. Like I don't know if he just did a lot of drafts and like worked it down to the ounce, like, or if he's just.
I think he played it with
probably.
his friends.
He probably just wrote a campaign and then turned it into a book. But yeah, like I don't know what his
Yeah.
writing process is, but whatever it is, don't change a thing about your writing process, my dude.
Please don't change it,
'Cause-
Drew.
Because
Mr. Hayes,
you
please don't
clearly
change it.
know what
Yeah,
you're doing. You
very
got
well
a system
done.
that works. Keep going with it.
Mm-hmm. Which is the only reason why I want to continue. Like, I need to try Fred the Vampire Accountant
The
because
vampire accountant.
if this is great,
I gotta
that's
tell
gotta be-
you, if the humor in that is hitting,
Yes.
that's going to be great. You're
Mhm.
right. It's either going to be a critical failure or it's
Yeah.
going to be great.
Exactly.
It's not going to
Yeah.
be anywhere in between.
100%. And look at JP, the non-RPG,
She's
just coming up
she's
with
using
all
the
the
lingo.
refs.
Love it. She's
Man.
using the lingo.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
I had to look up what was the what is the insults thing? The virtue
Vicious mockery.
Yeah.
vicious mockery. Yes, I had to look that up when you guys sent that
Yes,
video.
vicious
I
mockery
was
is
like,
wonderful.
Yeah.
what is this? What is
So-
this?
As an aside, some DMs will make you tell what the vicious mockery is. Like they'll say, "Okay, well, what did you say to them to be a vicious mockery?" Like they'll make you say it. Or
Right.
if it's bardic inspiration, how did you inspire them?
Well,
Right.
you can go online if you're like me and you don't know anything. You can go online and they will give you.
Oh yeah,
ones.
ways
like
to mock people.
Like
Yeah.
insults.
I would be a mega nerd and
Mhm.
just steal from Shakespeare, like rolling at 20 and just shatter somebody's mind by calling
Yeah.
them thou 3-inch fool. Get thee to another
Right.
There you go.
Exactly.
There you go. Okay.
Oh, hey,
Oh.
Dayton, did you have something that you really liked about this? Was there a natural 20 for you?
Yes. So honestly, it was the relationships between our four main characters. I love that Thistle and Grumph have a history, and because he teases that up nicely, and the fact that we actually don't hear about it in the first book is really cool. I like how Eric and Gabrielle have a history, and they all kind of bond to each other, because they're apparently they're always hanging out at the tavern, and they're just really good. They're just really good friends, all in different ways, and I liked that because it shows that even though these are NPCs in a fictional world, they all have histories. They all are important, and that's which also connected with another thing that I loved about it is the fact that he sat down and thought, well, what happens to these characters when we're not playing? What happens to this? So, and he touches on that really well, like later when Mitch and his group are breaking into Solium, and they're hiding in the back of they threatened the farmer or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah,
the grain wagon or whatever it is.
yes,
God, they're
So-
a bunch of assholes.
they are, and that's funny too because I've
That's
played
real
with
world.
guys like that. So yeah, and I love that he was able to, take from these two different worlds, combine them, and for us that have played, we've dealt with other players like that it just
Mhm.
they don't care. They just want to kill and loot.
I want to
whatever.
kill everything, and I want
Yeah.
to have all of the best loot.
But yeah, like I said, I appreciate the two worlds being connected and the realism because you can tell that he's been in enough games that he can bring some of that into the book so
yeah.
that people can understand. It's I've had those experiences, of course, minus the exploding 20-sided die, but you've had the other ones. Sitting down like when you're
Mhm.
running a game, you have to sit down with the book and you have to make your notes and you have to
Mhm.
spend time preparing and whatever so the game flows better. And then what happens when people leave your group and you have to go find more people. So I like how he incorporated that, and we kind of have these worlds existing side by side, and they're more connected than either side knows about. So I thought that was such
Mhm.
he did that very well. And like I said, the fact that he just thought of that idea, I'm like, yeah, I love that. So that was, like I said, that was literally the reason I read the book was the whole idea behind it. So,
Yeah.
I'm glad that Hoopla suggested it to me. So
I'm glad that you
Yes,
shared it
for
with
sure.
us. I mean,
Yes,
honestly,
right?
because I don't know that I would have seen it otherwise, and that
Yeah,
makes me sad that I,
I
would have
mentioned it
missed
to people and they were like,
Yeah,
what?
I
I've
would
never
I
heard
would have
that.
gone
I'm
my
like,
whole
okay,
life
well, that's-
and never have read this book, and I would be sad.
well, you're
And now my
welcome.
life is fulfilled.
You've taken your first step to a much larger universe. Oh wait, that's Star Wars. Sorry.
Yeah, right. All right. Any other nat 20s we want to say before we move on?
I would like to say that in D&D, the combat is sometimes some people's most favorite parts of the game because they like the combat focused, combat centric type of gameplay. I thought he took what could be a 4-hour session of a single combat and was able to melt it down into a very entertaining and very understandable method by which, I mean, because everything they did was very D&D. Okay.
Right.
I mean, very much like Eric learning that he could backstab, coming out of the shadows, like being a barbarian, and it all took place very thoughtfully throughout. And it was still a D&D battle because I could imagine the rolls that they had to make. I could imagine what was going on when they figured the stuff out. I liked that he was able to translate a 4-hour session into several pages of easy to digest text.
Right.
It was just that, to me, that was a real big hit.
I want to give a shout out to just the humor in general. Like it's very witty, like sort of a blend between like Princess Bride and like the quippiness you get in like Marvel comics. Like the party has a very like Avengers type feel, but then you have Grump and Thistle, who they have like I feel like a very like ego and Fessig type of relationship. That was the vibe I was getting.
Okay, yeah.
It was like Inigo and Fessig from Princess Bride with the two of them, or like Legolas and Gimli. So I really enjoyed like the humor in general, and the humor of working off of each other, the humor of our world leaking into theirs, where it's like, sometimes we don't really like their terms are kind of creeping into our lexicon. Nobody knows what pwn means still. We're still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, and I thought that was actually a very interesting way for him to explain that our NPCs are using our language, our expressions, our curse words and stuff. So that was very clever.
You're so used to like, if you play like online games, or if you're like a Skyrim or a Baldur's Gate, or if you're playing like a campaign, like it's getting slowly more modern, with stuff like, Matt Mercer and Brennan Lee Mulligan's DMing style, but like you're used to your NPCs going, greetings, adventurer, I have a quest for thee, like the archaic language, and then as soon as the bodies hit the floor, the first thing you hear them say is, well, fuck. Like the first words out of their mouths is just like such a modern, our world exploitative phrase, and it just was hilarious to like see NPCs are real people too.
All right, so any critical failures, anything that doesn't work? Liam, you get to go first.
It's not necessarily a nat 1. It's more just a lower roll of like a 5 or a 6. The prologue makes a lot more sense when you get to the end, but as you're reading it, and I personally feel to the overall story, it seems kind of redundant and necessary. It's very well written. It's very well crafted. It's not overly long, so it's a great prologue, and I appreciate the sense of foreboding that is implanted here. But I feel like the sense of mystery and the eeriness about what exactly is unfolding is built up plenty throughout this book. And I feel like it would have been a lot more if they hadn't had that prologue and we just opened with the adventurers dying. And like that prologue, I feel like gives you like, it's very well done. It's just a little too much too fast. I feel like it would have been so much more impactful if only when you get to the final chamber with our NPCs do you realize exactly how deep in the crap we are right now.
All right. Interesting.
And how massive this world is.
Okay.
Also, speaking of the ending, like, I don't want to get too much into spoiler territory. I don't know how much we're dabbling with that.
I'm probably going to do it. So just go for it. He can edit it out.
It's been out for a while.
Yeah.
Okay. So, our final boss, this wizard, this schmuck.
Oh, interesting. You count that as the final boss, huh?
He is very well.
Interesting. Anyway, let him talk. Let him talk.
He is a very well. It's not that it's done poorly. He is done too well. I would rather fight Probabilitor the Annoying from Dungeons, and More Dungeons than have to deal with this pretentious, like smarmy, condescending, oh, I have a rift into the worlds beyond, so I am so very much superior to you. Like no, I hate
Do that
this
with Terry
guy.
Gilliam's voice.
Yes, seriously. Like
All right.
he is like it's very well done. We're supposed to not like him. I just, it's like Umbridge in Harry Potter. Like, you did a great job. I just dislike you too much and I want to punch you in the face. I'm gonna go into a barbarian rage of my own.
Okay, interesting. Okay, JP, critical failures.
Yeah, well, speaking of wanting to punch people in the face, the human players that are introduced on the first page,
oh my god,
they are so terrible and unlikable. It was too much to me. I'm like, and I started thinking, as someone who didn't, get involved in one of the game playing groups, is that the personality type that gets attracted to these games? Okay,
There are some.
No, yeah.
But yes,
that they are the exception, but they
exist.
They exist, and they are the biggest pain at the ass at the table. Nowadays, I think we kindly call them rules lawyers. So that's the people who know every single rule of D&D from every module, from every book that's ever been produced. We call them rules lawyers nowadays, but that guy specifically is called a murder hobo, meaning that they just go out and just kill everything. They don't want to try and find an alternative solution to it. They're like, hack and slash my way through. Oh, look, I'll pick up all their guts. Oh, I've got some gold. Let's keep moving forward. They don't care.
Okay.
Like, the joke is that everybody has dealt with somebody like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just think having the majority of that group be of that personality type,
that's rare,
was a lot.
Yeah, that's rare. I feel like we could have had just one dude who was like that.
Yes, I agree. But it wouldn't have the same impact for the rest of the series. I will say that right now.
Okay,
there's a payoff because of that. Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure if those characters made it to the following books, but apparently they do, so that makes sense.
So far, all 5.
Yeah. Okay, and then I did not particularly like the demon design, the way yeah, I know. Look,
no.
John's
I'm always interested in hearing why people don't like things, because keep going. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, it the claws and the rat heads and like the insect serpent descriptions of these demons. I'm trying to visualize them, and I'm just not digging them. I'm just
honestly,
not digging
I can say I honestly agree with you, because I when he describes them, I hear the clacking. And I see the rat head, but I can't see a full shape.
Yeah.
I can't picture a full shape
though. Like, what do you really want to have an imprint of a demon on your brain? Like, they're supposed to be indescribable. They're supposed to be ugly and indescribable. Like, shows that
too much. It was just too many different types when you're thinking of a rat head, but then with lobster claws and then and it was
I just love I'm a huge monster dork, especially like chimeric monsters where you're just combining a bunch of different animals. So I basically just took the Garthim from Dark Crystal and then combined it with a rodent of unusual size, and I was just like, wee!
I kept picturing the Garthim, but he kept saying about the head. I'm like, but that doesn't fit on the Garthim.
Yeah,
it does though. If you're a demon, it doesn't matter.
I just
unholy.
And the fact, and I was hoping after the first battle, the next set of demons would be different, but they were the same. It was just
there were 2 different demons there.
Yeah, there was more. There was the giant one that Thistle falls into, and then there was little teeny tiny crab ones that died easily, but there's just
but they're all. They all have the same issue. For me,
okay. Yeah, I gotcha. Okay,
because I will say that in most of the, I don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, in most of the common era fantasy, the typical guidance for demons is they are an unformed mob of just they're indescribable. It's a bunch of gross parts stuck together that just forms itself and it displays itself because it's from the pits of hell. It's supposed to be evil. It's not supposed to be like, look like if you play Baldur's Gate 3, Raphael is a very handsome devil, and I mean that in all of the forms of that, because he is a devil and he's a very handsome man, but that's a devil. We're talking about demons. They're the lowest of the low. There's a scum, and it's all these bits and pieces that are stuck together, and it comes crawling towards you. And it's supposed to emote fear, horror, and terror, and give you nightmares. So I think that's part of it. So that's why I didn't have a problem with them. That's why I was like interested in hearing what you had to say about them, because it's more of an accepted way of describing demons, I think, in fantasy, gentlemen.
Well, and that I can totally see that. It's just I was just as
Your
I
brain
sat
breaks,
there, I was
right?
like, I really want to get into this. Like and I just couldn't. I just couldn't get into the
makes sense.
descriptions of
Okay.
them.
Did you read it?
Yes, I read it.
Okay.
I read it.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm curious if maybe the audiobooks can bring that kind of stuff to life in a different way than me reading it. And the last thing I have is kind of it's most I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about this because this bothered me. And I know I'm reading a fantasy book, but when the human can I call them jerks? When the human jerks enter is it Solium? Is that right? Am I pronouncing
Yes,
that right?
that's right. Solium. Yep.
They sneak in
Yep.
and they're and all of a sudden, you find out that the way that all the adventurer groups are going to be transported to the dungeon is via magic, right?
Right.
And so they're, and each group goes as a group in through this, magic portal or whatever. And I'm like, you didn't realize that there was an extra group? Like you prepared for 6 groups and you've got a 7th and the kingdom, the guards and all the people organizing this didn't realize. I think they would have been like it was almost like I can't buy this. This is kind of a
I think
lack of story.
The way I looked at it was they snuck in. So everybody that was inside the town at that point had been cleared to come in as far as the adventure was concerned. Ones that didn't have the proper paperwork were all kicked out before they got there. So I think what happened was it was just more of an accounting issue inside because they if they're here, they're supposed to be here.
And they went to a field, right? They went to someplace outside of Solium to be transported.
Yes, but either way, they just snuck in, and their whole thing was either like their original party would be dead, so they would take the place of them, or there's going to be so many people they wouldn't notice. So I mean, I do see your point, JP. I do. I chalked it up as, well, they're inside the town. They're allowed to be in the town, so they must be allowed to go. That's the way I looked at it.
Well, that was just my kind of script writing kind of
No, you're right.
That doesn't hold up for me. They would have been caught at that moment. And then they have Russell even once they're at the dungeon.
Yes,
he recognizes it.
Yes, the book changes. I know, which I thought
and
was
he
a really
just
cool
dismisses
touch.
it, and I'm like,
he dismisses it because he skips. I think I misread something, which later in the other he starts to kind of go overboard on that whole thing. Like
I
think I messed something up. So yes,
that's step 1 down the path.
Yeah. So that leads to something else happens in the later books.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Very good.
It is
but that was
step
just
1.
the outsider looking in going, I think I almost would have liked it better if they had somehow managed to get one of the scrolls.
Yeah.
To legit get in.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's just a minor. Like I said, I don't think that's a roll of a 1 at all. It's
okay.
just,
no, all right. I got you.
I mean, going off of, this idea of NPCs, I think those guards, man, like, okay, so there's a 7th group. Send them through. They're all gonna die anyway. Like, I don't get paid enough for this.
Well,
I'm tired.
They even addressed that at the end. It's like they said they could have been bought off because they're broke. So
I gotta deal with this lunatic king. Like, I got no money. Like, there's all this shit.
Well, that I almost would rather have had them actually buy.
You would have had a moment of like, 7 groups. Who cares?
Yeah,
they're all gonna die anyway.
I wanted
JP wanted to see them roll that deception roll.
Yeah, I wanted.
JP wanted to see the deception check performance.
Yep.
And I wanted to see how they managed to get, all the way to the magic portal without, getting caught.
I mean, they probably would have just cheated anyway.
They walked in a giant group is what happened. That's what happened.
So. Okay. All right. Well, that's not.
They pulled an Assassin's Creed.
That's not as satisfying a storyline.
Sliding
Just
into
put your head
video
down.
games.
Pull your hood up, put your head down. Nobody
Yep.
can see us.
Okay.
Everything's fine.
All right. So I only have one complaint, and it's funny because John literally said the exact opposite early on. So in my mind, and it's not a huge mistake, but I think it's a giant opportunity. Let's put it that way. I feel like there's a glaring lack of world building. Now, what I mean is he takes his time in describing what the characters look like and their armor and stuff like that, and then even the other NPCs. But he doesn't tell us what the town or the woods really look like. He doesn't it's all very generic and very superficial. Like they walk into Maple Bark and he's like, the only lights are, there's a little bit of lights and there's a tavern looks like it's open. Nothing else. There, it's like it doesn't really tell us roughly how many buildings. It's about 20 minutes down Main Street. What it doesn't really tell us anything, and so I'm like, okay, whatever. And then as you progress through the book, it's when the last cave, it's a little bit better, but I've been through enough modules and I've read enough modules and I've read enough quest books to know that the descriptions of the places you go are in there. There's a lot of description. So it seems to me like a little thin that somebody who's played all these games didn't incorporate that much description of where they're going. I mean, I'm not asking for a Stephen King like 7-page explanation of how this bedroom looks. That's not what I'm asking for. A paragraph or two about what the surroundings look like, stuff like that. And I just kind of feel like that was missing because that's part of a world building. He did a good job with the people, not so much with the surroundings. So that to me, is lacking, and I think that's a problem. So
this is for our probably open discussion, but do you think that that's how he is as a DM?
It maybe is.
Like he paints broad strokes in the background. Like there's 22 buildings. You see one that looks like a tavern it's the only one with the lights on currently because it's late at night. What do you want to do? Right. So, I mean, you just paint broad strokes for the background, but for your actual players, you really paint with a detailed brush. And I feel that's what he did here.
Okay. I still think it's missing, but that's okay.
I know you do. I realize that. So I will say one thing in relation to the prologue. You said it was, I didn't read it. I've only ever listened to it. It's a very short prologue. And by the time I hit the end of the book, I completely forgot about the prologue.
Yes.
Like sincerely,
Yeah.
I forgot all about it. And I just went through the book like normal. And then when I went to re-listen to it for the second or third time, I was like, oh, damn, that's the end. Like, oh shit, it really spells out what happened all of a sudden. You're just like, crap. Way better on the second read through or the listen through. It was way better.
That's what I think it's for. It's for your second read.
It is.
Because I don't think anybody is going to remember that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I didn't even think.
It's in
I
passing.
didn't recognize. I didn't even remember there was a prologue until I went back and read it the second time.
Yeah, like I said, it is a bit better on the re-listen. It would just, for me, it's kind of like if you started Last Crusade by watching a random dude going through like one of the 3 tests in the Chamber of the Grail. It's like, it's so much more fun though if you like just hear about the trials and only hear the poetic descriptions of them from Indy's dad's journal, and then
But I feel that's what you got, because I feel that like they gave you just enough to know that there was a wizard, that there was an object, and that the magic came alive. And that's it. I mean, they gave you 3 beats and then they moved on.
Yes. And I think the problem is we've all said we forgot about it.
I think that's good though, because when you do reread it, you go, son of a bitch. I completely understand this entire thing. I don't think a prologue needs to be completely connected to what you're about to read. It needs to hit a touch point during it, right? Like it needs to like 4 hours. You see this prologue, it's like, and now 4 hours earlier, kind of like what they do in modern TV. It's like they show a scene and they go, okay, 4 hours earlier or 24 hours earlier. And they go, okay, well, let's see what happens in 24 hours to get to this position that we saw them in that was completely awkward. And this is kind of what happens here, I think.
Okay.
I do. As far as there are no critical failures for this, as far as I'm concerned. I think everybody's nitpicking. I think this was a perfect work of art, and we can move on to open discussion.
All right, fine. Okay. So yes, open discussion. This is an area where people can ask any questions or mention anything that we didn't get covered in the other parts. So who has something they want to bring up?
I do.
All right, John, go ahead.
I loved that there was a complete and well thought out idea of a minion culture.
Yeah.
They have like their own god, which is a kobold, the most killed. Okay, so JP, in D&D there's a hierarchy of killed things, right? In the old school way, goblins and kobolds are at the bottom of the list for like, they're the easiest ones to kill. They're usually like, hey, go out, we've got a goblin problem, go kill these goblins. Hey, we've got a kobold problem, go out and kill these kobolds. They're the cannon fodder for the monster world, so you go out and go kill them first, right? So to have a god be a kobold is utterly fantastic. I mean, it is like, I mean, I just love, and as you go through, you find out more about crap, I lost his name.
Thistle?
No.
Grumble. Yeah, Grumble, the kobold god. And you learn more about Grumble as time goes on. I just love one, that his name is Grumble, and then he's a kobold. Okay, that's amazing. Then let's go on to the fact that minions create their own pathways through fucking dungeons to get through it without having to go through the dungeon. Why have I never thought about this? It is a stroke of sheer genius. Like, he's slowly building this minion culture. And I'm like, oh my God, this man's a genius. Like, he has really sat down and thought about minions from a different point of view than any of us. It was just, to me, I loved it.
All right. Very
yeah,
good.
I love that minions are like an oppressed working class, and we really dive into that. And like, it's funny because there's a show on Netflix called Delicious in Dungeon, which is amazing. I highly recommend it. But like, I was watching that kind of congruent with reading this book, and there's a point where like they have to get by a trap, and our rogue Chilchuk knows how to do it, because he's like, like there's the minions and people usually build stuff in so that they can get around it. And I thought that, I was like, oh my God, look, it's the thing. And so that was fun. And like that whole conversation they have in that dream of like, it's hilarious, but also like a really sweet sentiment of like, most of the prayers I get are pretty typical, please for like mercy and stuff. And then here's you, my dude, like praying for other people. Like, I don't get that a lot, and I'm really impressed.
Right.
Yep.
All right. JP, do you have something?
Yes, I basically have the I don't know anything about this questions that I want to ask you.
All right.
Oh, go for it. Let's go. Question time.
And you actually answered a couple of them already, but I'm curious, do we finally get Grump's human, you know what I'm talking about, human backstory in any of the future books?
No, we don't get the other half.
You do get Thistles in a more detailed fashion moving forward.
And you
but
do get their history together.
Yes, you get their history together.
Okay.
But you don't get the human. Do you get the human side?
No,
I don't
you
think
don't.
so. I don't think you do at all. Like Grumph is still sort of a mystery. I would love to hear more and see more about Grumph.
Yeah,
What?
he's a half-orc.
Yeah, he's a half-orc.
Okay.
Sorry, I was behind. I was like, what does she mean human half? Oh, because he's a half-orc. In my head, I just thought of him as like,
that's not what I mean. Because
maybe his mama was an elf. You don't know.
Did I understand this correctly, that Thistle and Grump and Gabby and Eric, they were like Tim, they were previously human players?
No.
But there, no, but there is a connection to the real world.
Yes, there is a connection
in one of them.
But it's different than this.
It's totally different.
Character.
They are full NPCs, and Timiscore is previously a PC that's become an NPC. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But later on, there is a connection with one of our characters to the real world.
Okay. All right. Well, that explains it, because then you would not get Grump's human backstory if he was never a human.
Right. No, none of these. None of these characters. They were all NPCs. They were created in the module.
Okay,
they were all like, there's a human sitting over here, and then there's a female sitting with him with a half-orc behind the bar and a small shadowy crooked boned gnome sitting in the back. That was it. That would have been the whole description. There would have been nothing else. And then Drew Hayes said, you know what? Turning this on its ear, here's a book. I'm
Okay.
like, yeah, baby.
Which I love that he's a gnome. Like, I
Yeah.
love that his description is like when you go into the Prancing Pony and Strider's sitting in the corner, all like brooding and mysterious. But it's a little gnome. It's
Yeah.
just a little guy.
I love it. Well, and he's a paladin, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like,
Yes, he is now.
Yeah.
All right.
And
so what
I have
else?
I have one more question, which
Yes.
is so when they get kidnapped by the goblins, like, or
Mhm.
Gabby gets kidnapped and all of a sudden all her friends, are with her.
Right.
It they actually there's a line that says that no one knows why adventurers hunt goblins. And so I'm curious from the game side, like it's like adventurers just hunt goblins for sport than rather for a reason. Is that typical of the
There,
game
so
play?
as he mentioned, they're easy to kill and they give you experience.
And
So
back in the day, they were always vile, vicious. Like they were always portrayed as vile, vicious, evil
right.
creatures.
So
More
this
like
is,
your Tolkien goblins.
yeah, this is a side. This version of goblins is not usually what you see in the modules. They're usually kidnapping people and terrorizing
Mhm.
people, or they're like a
They're evil creatures.
yeah.
Okay.
So they're easy and they're low level, so they're easy to kill. That's why they get hunted.
Okay. Well, that was an excellent description. That told me what I was curious about with this, because I didn't know if that was like a important, the whole we don't know, because it seemed weird that he
Well,
actually said we don't know why they attack us.
They don't know because, like I said, they're not adventurers. And usually there's a reason, and they even kind of mention it in when if they would have left his tavern just to sit, it would have been inhabited by somebody. So typically, but in general, goblins are low man on the totem pole, which is why the fact that they gave them, like, they are actually relatively pleasant, and they actually fed their prisoners, and they have this whole thing, and they get their income from them, is a whole different side than what we were used to when you started playing back in the 80s and whatever. It just, that wasn't it. They were vile creatures and you were supposed to get rid of them. So
Which that made me so happy too. That whole idea of like Gabrielle is like low-key adopted into the Goblin
Yes.
tribe
I know,
because they
right?
routinely kidnap her in order to kill adventurers and loot them.
And she has her own horse,
Yeah.
It's like in Dragonheart, like when they make the deal of like, I'll just pretend to slay you over and over, and then we can both get money. It'll be great.
All right. Let's see. All right. So let's start with our favorite character, JP.
Thistle.
Really? Okay.
I did. I just love the whole like underdog that's kind of underestimated at the beginning, that, it's just a natural leader and has all this life experience that he
Right.
brings in, and like he's just, I don't know, he's the best kind of combination of been there, done that. I'm not going to take any of your crap, but the most caring heart,
Right.
when you get down to it.
Well, yeah, the deal he makes with Grumble is like, as long as I can still see my wife when it's all said and done, then it's like, yep, okay. So yeah.
And just naturally saves, the kids, during the one battle and just stuff like that. I really liked him. I liked him becoming the natural like leader of the group.
Yes, I agree. All right. Liam, favorite character?
I'm gonna cheat a little bit.
Of course
I gotta
you
go
are.
with
Pirate.
pirate. I love Thistle really is my favorite for all the reasons JP
that was my
mentioned.
answer too. So there we go. JP and I are on the
But
same page.
I gotta go with Thistle and Grumph because listening to JP, I just thought of this comparison. Thistle and Grumph are also kind of like Rocket and Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Like
Yes,
I feel
good
like
comparison.
you have to count them as like one
They're a
because
pair.
you can't they're a pair. You can't separate them. Like
Okay.
that's not nice. But so no, I love the way that Thistle and Grump are like I love that he saves that world building. We don't need to spend half an hour diving into their relationship right this second. He just, with his excellent writing, conveys that they are bros. They are ride or die bros.
All right, Disney John, favorite character.
I am in agreement with all of you that Thistle, but I actually chose Gabriella. I thought her character really changed the most, well, next to Eric, changed the most from, the noblewoman's, daughter, or nobleman's daughter, being prim and proper, who really for most of her life she hasn't. She's been purposely kidnapped by the goblins. She sought it sometimes. She's considered friend among the goblin kind. And now she's like this barbarian woman who doesn't wear dresses and wear dainty things. The rest of the oh my god, y'all need to read the rest of the books. They're just, I mean, like Gabriella's character development throughout is stunning. I
Yeah.
truly like Gabriella's character.
I sense that is coming,
Yeah.
which interests
Oh,
me,
it's
but I
so
just feel
good.
like in this particular book, Thistle was
Thistle's fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
Thistle is 100% my number one choice, but
Yeah.
I'm being a good podcast host and not choosing Thistle, even though he's number one. I chose Gabriella. I really do. Gabriella. So Thistle is to Grumph as Gabriella is to Eric. I really think that those two are a pair, and not as in a couple pair. They are a pair, because I'm equally as vested in Eric as he becomes more roguelike throughout this novel and the following novels. He is just I mean, he also has, I think, the biggest change to his development as Gabriella and Eric. They just changed so much from I'm a guardsman to I'm a rogue. Like, I read all of these books about how could a rogue get in here and do these things, and how can I make my locks better by picking them and figuring out how to make them more secure. Like, he's doing all these things to do guard like things, but then now he realizes, wait, I'm on the other side. I know how to break into this shit quick. Watch this, right? The realization for him is amazing.
Yeah.
So honestly, Gabriella and Eric are probably my two favorite characters as far as the humans go. Since y'all took this on Grump, I'll take the humans and be just, a humanistic.
All right.
I do have to give a shout out though. I can't remember her name. The lady that we met at the knife throwing competition who gives Thistle the magic knife.
She's in my favorite fantastical creature.
Amen.
Servia.
Servia, that's it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is interesting because she sort of shows up in other areas in the next books.
Ooh, she comes back.
I'm telling you all, you got to read the books.
That's not really true, John, but okay.
It's okay.
Let me dream.
We can't,
No,
I'm not
we're not gonna
spoiling
get there.
nothing for them.
Let's
I'm
just
not
go.
spoiling nothing.
I know. All right. So let's hit these next ones pretty quick. So favorite encounter or battle, JP.
Okay, I thought I was gonna pick the Apple Ram tournament battle, but I'm like Liam. I think that first goblin attack is the best battle.
That was mine too.
See, we're all this is
What?
the sign of a good
You all
book,
picked the
though.
same thing?
Yeah.
I love the goblin camp. The goblin camp battle is great.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, because it's where everybody realizes what they're able to do. You know what I mean? I think that's great.
So I took this to mean an encounter with another character or something within the environment. Okay.
That's fine.
I did not take it as a battle. I chose Thistle's encounter with Servia at the knife throwing practice range because I thought it was such a natural, like, he's like, I'm not going to throw so good because I don't want people to know how good I am. And she's also obviously showing like the talent, like, I am not doing that as well. I genuinely enjoyed that interaction between the two of them. And the first time that I listened to this without having heard any of the other novels, I was like, oh, wouldn't that be a cute couple? Right.
I was going to say, was anybody else feeling a little flirty? Like,
100%.
I thought that was a very meet cute moment.
I think Thistle is just a friendly gnome.
He literally said, she's attractive if you go in for that kind of thing. So that's
exactly,
it's not really his thing.
A lot of that is explained later.
And
he's still pining for his wife.
Well, and he also explains that his wife had been so shy.
Mm-hmm.
He had been shy, but she had been even more shy, and he became the one that
spoke.
got them talking and stuff. So he's a natural kind of.
So because you guys chose a battle, I'm going to choose not a battle, and I really do think that the Thistle Servia I don't know, the whole line between the two of them is great because they interact throughout the rest of the book from apple bottom on. And I really like that first encounter between the two of them.
Okay. All right. Liam, do you have the same Goblin Camp as your answer?
Yeah, I gotta go with that first
Okay.
battle at the Goblin Camp because I love that.
Murder
Like,
hobos.
no, it's because it's for what it means to the characters. I love seeing each of them come into their own. Like, the best part of any superhero movie is watching them discover their powers.
Yeah.
And so,
No, I get that. Yeah. As a character plot point, I agree that the first battle is the most pivotal battle of all the battles that occur because it does change the paradigm of which they set upon themselves to not that. I mean, like completely not that. Nobody ends up with the same thing that they thought they were going to have. So
Right.
it was yeah, I agree with you in that aspect. It's a fantastic battle, but I wasn't going to choose it because everybody else did.
How dare we?
How
Right.
dare you?
All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to favorite fantastical creature. JP, you kind of teased yours earlier.
I could not. I picked between the two. I had
Ooh.
Servia because she's the female magician who kicks ass and already seems to understand this connection between the fantasy and human world, and that was very interesting to me. But I also loved Grumble, the god of the minions.
Yes.
And he ends up helping, Eric after Eric, sacrifices himself.
Right.
And so I was just like, I enjoyed those two cases. And I'm going to use the word scene, but any chapter or whatever that contained those characters, I thought they were
I can't disagree
delightful.
with you.
Right. All right.
Because that sacrifice means so much later on.
It does.
Okay.
All right. Disney John?
For me, the fantastical creature that came to mind were the demons. I know that as much as you guys can't wrap your heads around them, I think that's part of the goodness of what those demons are is that they are so fantastical, that they are so out there that you really can't, like, how does a rat head fit on crab legs with 8 legs and 3 tails, and like how do you do that, right? And I thought that was well done. That was mine.
All right. Liam?
I did have a blast with those demons. It kind of made me think of all the stuff that comes out of the portal at the end of the first Iron Druid book. Like all those crazy demons.
I love that you wrote Iron Druid. So.
oh yeah, I'm on. I got to like book 3. I need to get back on that series.
Yeah, you do.
I gotta go with my boy Grumble. I gotta go with Grumble.
Grumble's awesome.
The minion god. I love how like he's a kobold, which from my experience with them, they're very like kind of creepy creatures. They're very like snarly lizard velociraptor looking things. But in my head, his voice sounds like Hugh Grant. It's this
That's actually
like
pretty good. That's actually pretty good.
It looks like a Skeksis, but then the voice that comes out, this was like, so let me get this straight. Like, you want this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was the vibe that I got from Grumble, and he was just so much fun. I loved.
And then he
anytime we got
pledges
to talk
himself
to him.
to Grumble, and he's like, "Well, I was kind of hoping for a little bit more."
I don't get many of these.
Could you zhuzh it up a little, please?
Oh, that's very funny. I love it. Honestly, it's Grumble. I mean, if I had to think about all the characters, because there wasn't. I mean, overall, there's stuff they fight in the cave and everything else, and I sure as hell didn't want to pick that, the douchebag of a wizard at the very end, because he was just
that wizard.
Yeah,
he's the worst.
Y'all hate that wizard. I thought he was the perfect plot point.
Well, it's just, I agree. We'll get
Yeah, no,
everything he
it's
said
not
before.
that he's poorly made; it's that he sucks. I hate that guy.
He's just
He's
so
a
con-
jerk.
I hate Mitch more.
Well, yes.
We all hate Mitch.
Yes. All right. So, okay. Your favorite fantasy author, if you have one, JP.
I don't have one because I typically read murder mysteries, but I will give you this. I think the reason that I'll do this episode of the podcast is because at the middle school book fairs, I always bought a choose your own adventure book.
Oh, I love it. So did I. I have yes, those are great. Those are so much fun.
And I was reading up on this whole Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that, and those were actually a spin-off kind of created due to the popularity of Dungeons
Who
and Dragons.
doesn't love a choose your own adventure? Damn it, they're
Oh
great.
my
Yeah,
gosh.
I've actually found a
Ooh.
couple at half price books that I bought.
Put your finger in the page that you just chose, so you can go back to it if you chose
Yeah.
poorly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all done it.
Yeah.
I think I have one of the original ones I bought back in the
Yeah.
day.
I have 2 board games based on them.
Do you? Oh,
Yes, I do.
see.
All right, there you go.
So
Because they're that
that's
good.
my answer. Sorry, I don't have
No,
a
that's all right.
current
No.
fantasy
No.
author.
All right, Disney John, favorite fantasy author.
Kevin Hurd, David Eddings, R.A. Salvatore, and Brian Sanderson.
Wow.
Don't
okay.
ask me to choose.
All right, I'm not going
Kevin
to.
Hearn because of the Iron Druid Chronicles, David Eddings because of the Bulgariad, R.A. Salvatore because he writes just great Drizzt Do'Urden, and Brian Sanderson, the Alamancy series.
All right.
There you go.
All
I'm
right.
spitting them out because that's what I read. That's my bread and butter, my man.
All right, Liam.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing.
I'm glad I got it done first. I
Sorry,
couldn't pick
Dayton.
one.
That's all right. I have
Sorry,
one,
Dayton.
so I just have one.
J.R.R. Tolkien. Do I even need to say why? Jasper Ford for the Thursday Next series. Rick Riordan for the Percy Jackson.
Amen.
And just the whole Rick Riordan universe.
Amen.
Kevin Hearn for the Iron Druid
Amen.
series. And my boy Neil Gaiman for American Gods Alone. The only reason why I can't say Terry Pratchett is because I haven't read any of his books yet.
I need to read Neil Gaiman.
Good stuff.
Bro.
It really is. Good stuff.
Yeah, that's okay.
Read Neil Gaiman.
You put J.R.R. Tolkien on your list. I realize that he's an absolutely incredible author. I just cannot get into his writing style.
I read The Hobbit in like a week, and it took me a few years to get all the way through Lord of the Rings. But
yeah,
that's where I stopped. You know.
No, I get it. And I understand that he is an incredible author. It has to be writing style for me, and I just can't get into his writing style.
Yes, no, I 100% agree.
You gotta deal with 5 paragraphs of walking and 10 paragraphs about trees every chapter.
Right. That was like,
and everybody has so many names. Everybody has so many.
Oh my God.
So
well, that's like the Wheel of Time series by Jordan. There was book 6, I want to say, or book 7. It was like, I don't know, almost 1,000 pages, and we moved 5 feet. Literally, we moved 5 feet. It was like
I read the first one, and I just didn't give a damn when it was over. I didn't even care. I was like, I'm done.
I will say that the Amazon series,
yep,
pretty damn good.
Right,
it really boils it down for you, so it makes it actually interesting.
All right. So my favorite fantasy author, I'll fill in for Liam, is Terry Pratchett, because the Discworld series alone is freaking fantastic. And teasing an episode for next year, we are going to be covering one of his books titled We Free Men, which is the first book in the Tiffany Aching series. So I love his humor. The Discworld is a fantastic universe. And the fact that all these books are somehow connected either by a town or a character or whatever, it's just so much fun. And absolutely adore Terry Pratchett. And unfortunately, I didn't discover him until after he passed away. So
if I were to start listening or reading Terry Pratchett, which would be the first book that you would recommend of Terry Pratchett to introduce me to his writing style and everything?
Colors of Magic is actually the first in the series, but Discworld. Okay, there's over 30 books that take place in Discworld.
Jesus.
Yes. They're not all, you don't have to read them all because they all focus on different characters. But I started with We Free Men, the Tiffany Aching books.
Okay.
Which is a really interesting look at witches that we've never seen before.
And so if I start reading that and I read other books, it's not going to like drive my brain insane?
No.
Okay.
No, because that's where I started, and I started going down the other ones, and they cross over characters from time to time, but not necessarily storylines.
Okay.
So
thank you. Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Yep. No, that's where I started, and that's a good place to start.
Because I will say, out of all of my authors, I would recommend Kevin Hearn and the Iron Druid Chronicles over everything else.
Yeah, Mandy knows, and she really liked them too. So
they're so good.
They're better listened to. I will admit. They are Luke Daniels, who does the reading for him.
Oh my God. Get the audiobook. Yes.
The audiobooks are so much better than I think the books. One, my brain doesn't translate well with any kind of non-English languages. It's a learning disability I have. So I have a problem. I could not read the books. Like when the last book came out, the book came out first and I had to wait for the audiobook because I couldn't read the book because I didn't know what Siobhan was, which is like one of the actual main characters. And I was like, I don't know who this is. I can't do this. This is going to drive my brain crazy. Listening to them and the voice artist who does it is amazing. And if you ever wondered what a dog sounded like in his head, he'll tell you.
Oberon.
Stunning. It's just so good. It is such. I even think, JP, I know that you're not a big fantasy fan. I think that you even would like this because it deals with it deals with all the pantheons of the gods that are out there in every different culture in such a way that is not, I don't want to say it's irreverent, but it deals with all of them. And like he is, the main character is Celtic. So they deal with a lot of the Celtic gods, but then they deal with Roman gods. They deal with Greek gods, they deal with Japanese gods. They eventually hit all of these pantheons, and I'm talking the gods themselves. He meets them and talks to them. It's fascinating. It's so good.
Well, like I said, I like the genre. It's just getting started. Like if somebody gave me a book, I would sit and read it. It's just I'm not
Hounded Kevin Hearn.
Okay. I'll send you my address if you want to send me a copy of it so I get started.
All right.
I'm done. I'm done hijacking your podcast. I will now hand the reins back over to you, sir.
So let's hit some final words and rating on this particular book. So on a scale of 1 to 5, JP, you get to go first.
I'm going to give it a 4 because it's great. It's just a few nitpicky things that keep me from giving it a full 5. And I think that I have the feeling that these characters and the storyline would just get stronger and stronger. A first book for any author is most likely going to be the weakest out of, all of them as the series goes on. And so but in general, it was completely enjoyable. And I think the fact that we did such a long podcast on this fairly short book,
right,
is a testament to how great it was to experience. So,
all right, Liam.
I'm gonna give it 4 nat 20s and then like a 16. I'm gonna give it 4 nat 20s nice. And then a 16. Because I feel like, I mean, to be fair, I think many of the things that I would have liked more of, we will get more of in the other books, which is why I need to read them. But I really think this is a very, like, I'm bummed that he's, like, such an unknown and so obscure, because, like, this is a heavy-hitting author. This is a real, he's just so right out of the gate excellent at his craft, and I'm very impressed, and I can't wait to consume more. I really feel like we need to I'm hoping this podcast will get the word out about this guy, because he deserves to be up there with Rick Riordan and be as well known and as lucrative.
All right, very good.
And coming from the film world, I could completely see this.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh
yeah.
God.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
Can you imagine the transition at the beginning?
I'm just thinking, Netflix series or Disney Plus series is what I would like.
That would be so
there's so many, because there's 5 books. I don't want them to try and condense it all into one, and so
or combine like
season.
1 and 3 or whatever the way they do for movies.
So all right, cool. Disney John, final word or rating?
Okay. I'm gonna give you my rating first. It's 5 stars, 5 film reels. I'm going old school 4K Blu-ray. 5 freaking stars, 5 nat 20s. I will read this anytime. It is so good. It is such a pleasurable read. It is such a joy to just escape into the world where Thistle, Grump, Gabriella, and Eric exist, and I want to be there more. And I wish I was Timoscore.
Oh yeah, okay, all right. That's
I mean,
cool.
I genuinely, it was so enjoyable. It's going to be at the top of my list. I'm like, honestly, fantasy authors, if I have one, I should also have included Drew Hayes on this.
All right.
I
Alright.
love the way they pick up Timascore at the end.
Yeah.
And just wait, he's a main character moving forward.
Yes, he is. Yes, he
Yay!
is.
You all
And he
need to
was likable. He wasn't a
Yes.
murder
Yes.
hobo.
Yes.
I
No,
loved him. I love
guys, you
Timascore the
gotta-
Brave.
Oh, go to book 2. Go to book 2.
All
We
right.
will, we promise.
So obviously this is a very fun book to read. It really lands for those familiar with tabletop RPGs. The characters are a lot of fun and they're very well written. I do feel that there is a lack of world building in the way of the surroundings of how places look and what this world looks like. And also I even though JP said that she was able to get something out of it and she enjoyed it, I still think that it is a niche, audience. So, and that's cool. So I like that, but I am going to go ahead and give it 4 out of 5 because it's definitely, like I said, I think even before I even suggested this, I've been through it 3 times already. So it's just a fun way to spend a few hours of your time. So cool. It's time for some thank yous. Guys, this is a lot of fun. And honestly, and to JP's point, it's a relatively short book and we spent 90 minutes talking about it. So
Yeah, we did.
yeah. So, and I mean, we got off the rails a couple times and I'll fix that in the editing. But anyway, so
What?
what? Sorry. Anyway, so thank you for being here. Thank you, Liam.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm ready to adventure anytime.
And thank you, Disney John.
Thanks for the adventure, buddy. This was great.
And thank you, JP.
I was honored to be Gabriella for an evening but I didn't get to show my true barbarian nature, did I?
That's right. No, your blood red armor. No, he didn't.
Next time.
Next time. That's right.
Next time.
And of course, we like to thank our listeners for spending time with us every week. It means a lot. Thank you so much. If you want to help the podcast out, you can share us on social media and you can share any thoughts on said media about the book. Reach out to us and let us know if you've read the book, if you're looking forward to reading it. Rate and review the podcast on whichever podcast app you use. If we see the review, we will gladly share it on social media and read it on an episode. If you really want to help us out, support us over on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You can get early access to episodes as well as much exclusive content. We have the deleted scenes episodes, which are movies that we can cover on a regular schedule. So we got it over there. We also have the bonus track episodes, which are music episodes that didn't quite make the cut that we still want to talk about. And occasionally, if I have time, I will drop a short video, kind of a behind the scenes of what you can see. And from time to time, also, you can vote on picking up upcoming episodes. And speaking of upcoming episodes, next week, we are discussing and comparing 2 Monty Python classics. It is, of course, The Holy Grail versus The Life of Brian. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm pretty sure I will be on the opposite side of everybody else's opinion on that.
Oh, I'm going to have to listen.
And fight.
And go. So do yourself a favor and read more books. And remember, even despite what John said, physical media is better than streaming.
I didn't say anything bad about it. I'm coming over to your side.
I'm just kidding. The Docking Bay 77 podcast is produced and edited by Dayton Johnson, recorded with Rode Pod mics, the Zoom PodTrack P4, and edited on Audacity. Opening music provided by Eric Jason Brock. You can find him on YouTube and Bandcamp. Thank you for listening. It was the whole, stream it, listen to the audiobook, I was kidding.
Oh, no, listen to the audiobook. No, it's genuinely like Luke Daniels is an incredible reader. Like,
I know.
he really is.
I understand. R.C. Bray is the same way. If I see his name on the book.
You know who else is good? Brendan Fraser.
Yep. Bronson Pinchot, of all people.
Really?
Yes, he reads a lot for the same author, and he's fantastic.
Okay.
When it comes, he doesn't. It's like you have that Belky voice in your head and all those characters he did, and then you hear him do an audiobook, and it's fantastic.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know if he does anything else, but Mark Thompson does all 3 books in the Thrawn trilogy.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And that is how I read those books, and they are extraordinary. He
Yeah.
does
make
like
the difference.
Yeah.
Like the voices he does for all the characters are like they're good impressions, but at the same time he's making it his own. So like it's really good.
See, I'm old enough. I read the books when they were new. So
Yeah, you read it when they came out.
I read them in paperback.
All right,
back
folks.
in the 90s.
I'm out. I gotta go.
All right.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye bye.
See you, John.
Love you guys. Bye.
Mm.